Being drunk all the time wasn't exactly good for my marriage. And in this video, I want to talk about how sobriety has changed my marriage. First and foremost, if you're someone who's struggling with addiction, or you think you might be struggling with addiction, you're in good company and you're not alone. And I hope you know that it's all right to go ask questions, and it's all right to get help, and it's okay to admit that you're not doing so well. When I was drinking every day, one of the biggest things that I struggled to admit to myself was that I was not present for my wife and for the people around me. So I was getting drunk, and I always thought of myself as a gleeful, happy-go-lucky drunk person. But my self-appraisal was poor. I couldn't see things very clearly for what they were. And when it comes to my marriage, I was deeply disconnected from how unavailable I truly was for my wife on an emotional level. And I think that gets overlooked far too often. I think I was one of the people who would likely dismiss that whole concept of emotional availability. Well, let me tell you something. Having been sober for 11 months, I know the difference now between sitting next to someone and being next to someone. Being with Jessie in sobriety means that I can read the room. I can tell how she's feeling far beyond overt and exaggerated behaviors. Whereas when I was drunk all the time and I was seeing life through the lens of my thirst, my perpetual want and need to get drunk or more drunk, or sickness, like being hungover, Jessie, my wife, would have to be really, really extra to get my attention. She would have to be downright demonstrative for me to know anything was wrong. I couldn't pick up on cues. I couldn't see, I couldn't read her eyes. I couldn't denote tone very well. I certainly wasn't paying attention to body language. And you know what that did to my wife? It shut her down. And so what I think I was mistaking as her being just fine was her being withdrawn. And I didn't notice, and I didn't notice that I didn't notice. I think that's one of the most frustrating things about being actively in addiction, to whatever degree on the spectrum one might be. I think we suck at noticing what's actually going on around us. And as it pertained to my marriage, I did not realize she was becoming so sullen. I did not realize she was so miserable. Maybe I suspected it, but I wasn't able to pinpoint it. I wasn't able to be truthful about it within myself. And the good news is, since getting sober, and it's taken some time, my emotional availability has wildly improved, in that I do feel once more a strong connection with her as a human being. I can tell what's going on, and I sincerely care what's going on, and it makes hanging out so much more potent and powerful and important. And I kind of had turned her into a drinking buddy before. Now, she didn't drink, mind you, but that was the dynamic we took. And I take responsibility for that. And it wasn't good. It wasn't good. So now when we hang out, we're really hanging out. We're really together. We're on the same wavelength, and it's really, really good. And it makes being around each other very life-giving and very energy-giving, as opposed to before we just were in the same room. It's been a huge, huge difference. I hope I expressed that in a meaningful way, because it's been great for our romance. It's been great for our friendship. That's for sure. Another one of the biggest changes that we've undergone is trust. My wife stopped trusting me, and it's for good reason. As a drinker, I'm wildly selfish. I'm very, very, very much focused on myself, what I need, what I want, what I'm going to get. If my needs are all met, or my desires maybe is a more accurate term, or my wants are all checked off, then I'm kind of there for you, sort of, maybe. It's not attractive. It's not attractive. So trust has really improved, and connection has really improved as a result of being able to trust me and my intentions and my motivations. They're no longer muddled by this unquenchable thirst, you know? this unquenchable thirst. That part is arrested on a day-to-day basis, and it allows my wife to trust that what I say, I mean, and what I do, it's motivated, usually, in a proper way, in a healthy way, in a way that has more to do with us and less to do with me, certainly in principle. And that trust, just like the emotional availability, the improvement in that department leads to better friendship. It leads to better communication, and it leads to better intimacy. Another big change since that word just popped up multiple times is our intimacy. We kind of had none. And you know what's weird? When I was getting drunk all the time, I had this perception that my wife was not very affectionate. I told myself stories, and I co-signed those stories. Like, my wife is not very affectionate. She doesn't seem to want to be very touchy-feely with me anymore. Poor me. Poor me. I remember thinking she just wasn't a very bright, upbeat person with me anymore. What's wrong with her? It's pretty funny when I think about it now, because it turns out, friends, that she just wasn't into me being drunk all the time. Can you imagine? She wasn't into her husband coming home drunk 6 to 7 nights out of the week. How did I don't want to lambaste myself, but it didn't seem to click for me when I was drinking, because self-awareness, as I think I've said, is poor. So I thought my wife just wasn't someone who wanted to be romantic. I thought my wife wasn't a sweet nothing person. I thought my wife wasn't very affectionate. I thought our sex life was poor because she wasn't in the mood enough. And that hasn't been the reality since getting sober. And I suppose it's important to acknowledge that I don't just mean not drinking. Since stepping into a life of recovery, in that I do things every day that are suggested of me in a 12-step recovery format, as well as initially working with a drug and alcohol counselor and all of those things. Since sort of migrating into a completely different lifestyle, apart from just not putting booze in my system, her and I have cultivated something that I thought she wasn't doing, but it turns out I just wasn't doing at all. Actual connection and intimacy again. I just forgot about it when I was drinking all the time. I forgot what it meant to look each other in the eye just long enough to get that sort of feeling. When you look your person in the eye in a meaningful way, when you really connect and there's like an energy transfer and you go, oh shit, like that felt good. That's exciting. Stuff I remember from early days, but I think I let wash away as we were together for a long time. It's coming back, and it's been work to get there. I didn't just stop drinking and then suddenly we were being more intimate, and then suddenly we were being more flirty, and then suddenly everything was perfect. That's not been my story. It's been a slow climb to get to where we're at right now, 11 months sober, which is happy almost all the time together. And she is flirty often. I forgot that that was a part of our constitution as a relationship, given that I'd been drunk so much a couple years prior. I just forgot that we were flirty. I forgot that we liked to do sweet nothings. I forgot that we were excited to kiss. I forgot that our hugs could last longer than a couple seconds. I just forgot about that stuff, and it's been really nice and really rewarding. And while I'm not going to say we have reestablished the wild, passionate intimacy of the first couple months of our relationship when we were in our early 20s, this is as consistently connected, pun intended, as we've ever been. And we're in a healthy place physically, emotionally, and mentally right now as a direct result of me taking responsibility for being an alcoholic who was absolutely out of control, and then giving things time because they needed time. Jesse wasn't exactly impressed with me getting sober. Relieved, I'm sure, but not impressed. Not impressed in the way that it was like, oh yay, everything's okay now. I've gotten sober. The act of removing alcohol from my system a handful of times And then I've gone back out to drinking. So suffice it to say, my wife has dealt with a lot of shell shock in this department. She's just seen this before. This is not a new thing. But given time, the things that I've already discussed have really, really developed nicely, and they've really become quite organic, and things feel good between the two of us very, very often in a way that I kind of forgot was possible. It's been really, really nice. She recently admitted to me that that she had made plans to leave this summer, and she was just getting her ducks in a row. That's sort of an aside, but things can change, and we can change, and it's worth it. Getting sober has been worth it. Overwhelming at times for sure, scary at times for sure, but oh my God, has it been worth it? It's not even close. My life is endlessly better, and our relationship is endlessly better, and our marriage is better, and our hope for one another is better. Yeah. I'm glad I got sober. I'm really, really grateful that she didn't or wouldn't quite yet give up, because she's the best, and I love our relationship. We have so much in common, and yet we're so very different, and I can't imagine my life without her. She's the most important thing in this world to me outside of God and my sobriety. She's the most important thing in this world. And it's a shame. It's a shame that she's had to go through what she's had to go through with me, but it just is what it is at this point. All I can do is make living amends to her and do my best to put my best foot forward, and to show her that I can and will adopt and encompass this new lifestyle to the best of my ability, one day at a time. But she's really, really special, and I love her, and maybe we'll get her on the channel one of these days. But I just wanted to give you guys an update on our marriage. It's pretty freaking swell, brother and sister. It's pretty well. In the comment section below, what are some ways that relationships have improved for you if you are on the same journey with me? And what are some things that have been difficult? Maybe we share both some of the wins and some of the hardships of sobriety, because there you are when you're sober. I will say that. Here I am when I'm sober. There is no more escaping in the traditional sense. I mean, I might dive into some Ben & Jerry's ice cream or something like that. A lot, actually. But all in all, I'm here. And yeah, I'm glad for that. Well, I'm rambling. That's what I do. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for letting me share about my life. Cathartic as ever, and useful for my mind. And thanks so much. We'll see you guys in the next video.